Thank you, Chairwoman Castor. Mr. Griffith, it's wonderful to be here. Thanks for holding this Member Day. Imagine walking outside to a beautiful sunny South Florida day, the sort of weather that attracts visitors to the Sunshine State, it's the backbone of our economy. Imagine strolling down Las Olas Boulevard in Fort Lauderdale under cloudless skies and yet standing in water up to your ankles. Rising seas make sunny day flooding a regular occurrence in South Florida. The South Florida Sun Sentinel labeled October's annual King Tides as the time of year when fish swim in the streets. For my constituents, climate change is already a part of their daily lives. Americans around the country are experiencing their own climate impacts today. Rushing floodwaters, stronger storms, brutal droughts, sprawling wildfires won't discriminate between Republican or Democratic households. These impacts inspired me and Congressman Francis Rooney to introduce the bipartisan Energy Innovation and Carbon Dividend Act. That's H.R. 763. Our proposal would finally put a price on carbon. For too long, damaging carbon emissions have been left off the balance sheets of the world's largest polluters. Instead, we are all paying the price. That's why we need a market-driven solution that will get us to zero emissions. Last month, the International Monetary Fund called carbon pricing the single most powerful and efficient tool to reduce emissions. The IMF called for a $75 per ton fee by 2030. Our bill gets there by 2026. We start at a modest $15 per ton, assessed on fossil fuels at the source, at refineries, at mines, and pipelines. But the price quickly ratchets up $10 per year. Putting a price on carbon will send a bright signal across the economy that it is time to switch to a clean energy economy. It will drive clean power innovations that make business sense as much as they make climate sense. The big question is, where does the money go? 100% goes back to the American people as a monthly dividend check. And we've seen what happens when carbon fees hit consumers directly, and the revenue is then used for purposes other than directly helping consumers. It doesn't work, and it penalizes the most vulnerable. Monthly dividends will allow families to afford renewable energy as an alternative to carbon-based fuels. Last month, Columbia University's Center on Global Energy Policy released an in-depth report on our bill. And I would ask unanimous consent to submit for the record an assessment of the Energy Innovation and Carbon Dividend Act. The report found that our bill will produce economy-wide net greenhouse gas emission reductions of 38% by 2030, exceeding our Paris Agreement commitments. By 2050, 90% reductions. It would also create over 2 million net jobs over 10 years and will return monthly checks of as much as $367 per month to a family of 4. Returning the costs of pollution back to American families is essential. We need a drastic turn away from hundreds of years of unchecked carbon pollution toward a carbon-free economy. But we must root this dramatic change in justice. Justice means those who have profited off the destruction of our environment pay the price. Justice means protecting people who have been locked into a carbon-heavy lifestyle through no faults of their own. And the balance of market-driven solutions and protection for the most vulnerable is why this bill has the support of advocates from across the ideological spectrum, from Citizens Climate Lobby to the Alliance for Market Solutions, to the Catholic Bishops of America and other faith-based organizations. I ask that this committee respond to their call by recommending that the Ways and Means Committee fully consider this bill. It's important to set goals and targets, but we need to do something to get us there. This bill can do exactly that. It's time to stop passing the cost for carbon pollution on to the next generation. It's time to pull the levers in our economy to deliver real and lasting change. It's time to put a price on carbon. The Energy, Innovation, and Carbon Dividend Act will do that. The stakes could not be any higher, and we must act now. Again, Madam Chairman, I'm so grateful for the opportunity today. Thank you for giving us the chance to present.
Well, thank you to my good friend from Florida, Congressman Deutch. You know, you mentioned the flooding there in downtown Fort Lauderdale. And if you haven't been to Fort Lauderdale, it's a beautiful place. It's known as the Venice of the United States. Well, you don't want to be the Venice of the United States because Venice, Italy, right now is completely flooded over. But my brother-in-law, one day of the terrible flooding there, sent me some video where the flooding now was coming over onto sidewalks, into the street. They had a lot of those little scooters there, practically washed away into the canal. If we don't get busy, this is going to get worse. So I really appreciate your leadership on this. The committee will be grappling with how we price carbon and what our recommendations are. So thank you for your advice to the committee.
Thanks so much.